What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, I've got to get some seeds direct sown into the garden, but rather than just bring you guys along and sow seeds in the ground like I normally do, I wanted to actually bring you guys along and give you some tips to take your direct seed sowing game to the next level. Now, I think a lot of beginning gardeners encounter some problems when they're direct sowing seed because there's quite a few variables outside that don't exist inside. And I know it seems rather backwards thinking to think that starting seeds outdoors can be trickier than starting seeds indoors, but it really can be. And for beginning gardeners, it especially can be because there's a lot of variables that are changing. You know, there's the weather that's warming and getting colder. There's the sun, which can dry out the soil faster. It's a lot stronger. There's wind, there's rain and pests and other animals and stuff to navigate. And so there's a lot more variables than having something in the grow room where it's very sterile, it's very climate controlled, and you can really just kind of hone in the perfect conditions for seeds to sprout. Heat mats and everything. You have a lot of technology that can help you indoors, but once you get it outside, that's really kind of where it's like, if you don't have everything right or you don't know how to start stuff, you can run into some problems. So that's why in this episode, I'm just gonna give you 5 simple tricks to taking your direct seed sowing game to the next level. Let's go. So the first tip to taking your seed starting game to the next level is with a board. Now you might be wondering, how can a board help me with my direct sowing game? And to be honest, a board helps you in probably more ways than you can imagine. So when you're dealing with raised beds, one of the things that a lot of people have a difficult time with is reaching across the bed, or when they're direct sowing seed, it starts out nice, and as they get further and further and further, and their arm has to reach, you're either throwing the seed, or you have to walk around the bed. Remember where you left off, so you can sometimes kind of double up seed, have seed too crowded, or sometimes your line is off. And so really not having to walk around your bed and be able to just keep a continuous continuous drop of seed, so you know where you're planting your seed and how far they're spaced apart, can make a huge difference with just consistency in the garden. Now all you do is just take a board, a nice wide one helps. This is I believe 8 or 10 inches wide. It's a 2x8 or a 2x10, and basically just span it across your bed like that. So now rather than struggle and reach, simply hop on your bed. You simply hop on your bed, and that way you can access the entire width of your bed, never reaching, never having to walk around, and you basically keep your control over the part that you're working. And then when you need to move the board down, when you need to move your row down, move your board down, and you're going again. You just keep going like this. And this way you're not stepping in your bed, because one of the biggest issues that you have when you step inside your bed is you compact the soil. And you don't want to compact this beautiful soil that you have. That's the purpose of growing in raised beds. So you don't want to step in the beds. You don't want to walk around the beds. This kind of gives you that platform and that ability to directly plant above your garden without disturbing the soil. All right, the second tip to taking your seed starting game to the next level is by using a flag or some marker to let you know where you planted something. Now this seems super simple, but I'll tell you, how many times do you plant something and you forget where you planted it, or you forget what you planted where, and you might plant things in succession and come back later and overplant or cross plant. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And it's a simple thing. It's such a simple thing. These are contractor or survey stakes. Contractors use these when they're like grading land and kind of just flagging out parts of the property. And you can get them super cheap at your local hardware store. I use these and I basically just mark them where I'm putting my seeds, because like if I'm planting beets here, I'm gonna plant a row of beets, right? And I wanna see where I planted that row of beets, because after I bury it, it all looks like the same soil. There's really no notation of where I buried something. And so if I come back, if I put seeds here, and then I come back 2 weeks later, and I want to plant another succession of beets here, well, I want to know right where I have that first row, so that I don't plant it too close, or heaven forbid you plant literally right on top or across it, because those things can happen. If you don't know where you're planting something, a lot's going on in the garden, and it's very easy to forget. And like I said, I cannot tell you how many times, and I'll be the first to own this, that when I planted seed, I planted one year I planted lettuce seed, and I like to succession plant my lettuce in the spring. And so I planted lettuce, and I came back, I was about 5 days later, and I planted a whole other 9 square feet of lettuce. I did 3 feet by 3 feet. Well, little did I know that I had planted over about half of that, so 4.5 square feet or so, was already planted. So when the thing started sprouting, I had lettuce, 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 and then a huge gap, lettuce, 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 because I had cross-planted where I'd already planted stuff. So it's very, very simple with a flag or just seed markers to just note where you've planted something, because it's so easy to make these mistakes in the garden. The third tip to taking your seed starting game to the next level is by planting more than one seed per space. Now, again, this seems very, very simple, but there's a reason why you want to do this. If you plant just one seed, not every seed is going to germinate. But when you have a row like this, consistency is your friend. You want to make sure that everything is growing up at a consistent rate. And I would much rather go back and thin rather than have spots, because if I have gaps here and I'm planting things like beets or lettuce or spinach, whatever you're planting, if those plants are inconsistent and you go back and you plant seeds in those spaces, what can happen is as those other plants grow, they've already got 2 weeks of growth on those other seeds that you're just starting. And they're gonna get tall, they're gonna overlap, the leaves are gonna overlap, and they're gonna end up mulching your other plants that are just starting out as little babies. They're gonna outcompete. And so it's very, very simple to just take 2 seeds rather than 1, or 3 seeds rather than 2, whatever you normally plant. Just add a couple extra seeds per space, and that way when you come back, you're just gonna pick out a few extra plants, but you're gonna have consistency and it's gonna be nice and full. All right, now the fourth tip to taking your direct seed sowing game to the next level is just with simply watering. So I'm gonna get here some peas started, and I'm gonna put these in the ground, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to water them in. There's a lot of people that forget that seeds, when you plant them outside, the soil might seem damp, but they need water. They need to actually be well watered, because if the soil feels damp, dampness is not an indication that the seeds will have enough moisture to actually sprout. All right, and the fifth and final trick to taking your direct seed sowing game to the next level is by using cardboard. Now, cardboard is a very, very handy tool in the garden to helping your seeds germinate better. There are quite a few seeds that they do better planted shallow, but they also need to be kept dark and moist in order for them to germinate. So the first one that comes to mind is something like carrots. So carrots, they need to be planted very shallow. If you plant them too deep, they're gonna really struggle to germinate. But one of the downsides is when you plant them shallow, they're more exposed to the wind that dries out the soil. They're more exposed to the sunlight, so they get less of that dark conditions, which helps them germinate. But again, we talked about how seeds need consistent moisture to germinate well. So how do you navigate that? It seems a little confusing. Very simple. Just use a piece of cardboard. Now, it's very important to note that you cannot leave this on all the time. Once we plant our seeds, so I'm just using this for a demonstration. We're not planting carrot seeds just yet. But when the time comes, I'm gonna plant carrot seeds. I'm gonna take this piece of cardboard. I'm gonna plant all my carrot seeds in the soil. And then I'm gonna take my cardboard and I'm gonna put it over top. Now you're gonna wanna weight this down with some bricks or rocks or logs or something like that, so it's not gonna blow away. You're gonna water this in very well before you put the cardboard down. The cardboard is gonna trap all that moisture, keep it nice and dark, keep it nice and cool, so you have really good consistent germination. And here's the trick. You have to come out after about 3 to 4 days. You wanna come out and check it. You wanna lift it up, check it for sprouts. If you don't see sprouts, set it back down and wait. Once you see sprouts, the moment you see sprouts, it doesn't matter if it's just a few sprouts, pull off the cardboard and let them go. Because the thing is, if you leave the cardboard on, it's gonna smother the seedlings. It's actually gonna block them out of sunlight, which they also need to grow, but they need the sunlight once they germinate. So it's just very important, but I'll tell you, this trick is such a handy one because everybody's got some cardboard laying around. Just throw a cardboard box down, cut it up, use it as a mulch. It is gonna be a game changer to getting better, consistent germination when you're direct sowing. And there's lots of seeds that fall into this category. There's lots of herbs. Like I said, carrots is a huge one. There's lots of small seeds like chamomile. Celery is another one. So there's just lots of seeds that you just would have so much success doing this with, but a lot of people are worried about mulching their plants or smothering them, and you really aren't. It's a very simple, handy trick. So those are 5 tips to taking your seed starting game to the next level. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you did enjoy, make sure to throw a like up there. Subscribe if you've not yet already. We have tons more content coming out, and I'd really appreciate you sticking around for the fun, because the fun's just getting started. All right, I'll catch you all on the next episode. Grow big or go home, everyone. Catch you later. Bye.